Hey guys, this is Camden. I'm here with Zane today. I brought in Zane because I feel like he's a professional that could really help us understand this concept a little bit deeper. So we're going to be talking about progress over perfection. So Zane started his own company at 21 while in school. And so Zane, I just kind of wanted to, maybe you can help the audience understand maybe the frustrations or the obstacles or the challenges that you were going through being in school, also wanting to start a company at the same time. So yeah, can you tell us a little about maybe were you waiting on a perfect time, or were you waiting on a perfect season to start this whole thing? Like, what made you want to start it while you were in college? It would make more sense to wait, wouldn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. So there was a lot of, I've known that I wanted to start my own business from the age of 17. So when I was actually a senior in high school, I decided that this was my thing, this was what I wanted to do. And so throughout the course of college, I guess I had been pushing it out. But one of the concepts that was actually introduced to me through the Southwestern Advantage internship was progress over perfection. The reality of the matter is that as we get older and older, our lives only get more chaotic. So if you're in junior high and you think that you're super busy and you're overwhelmed with academics, you're overwhelmed with athletics, all the things that you're doing, you're only going to be more overwhelmed when you get to high school because you only have more stuff going on. And the same thing is true with college. If you think you're super busy in college, then what happens when you have kids? Parents will tell you that they're significantly busier now than they were when they were in college or in high school. So I think that there's an aspect to just accepting that there's no perfect circumstances for you to accomplish your dreams, that at some point you just have to start.
Yeah. Man, that's kind of frightening sometimes, you know? Like, sometimes I think, looking back at my life, I've waited for something to line up perfectly, giving me confidence that, okay, I can execute this now. But you did the exact opposite. You just said, you know, I'm either going to keep pushing this off or I'm actually going to go after it. So that's really cool.
I appreciate that.
That's awesome. I guess what was something that maybe you felt like you needed to perfect before you started this company? And you started at 21, right?
Correct, yeah.
So maybe when you're thinking at 17, like, what is something that you felt like you needed to perfect before starting it? Was there anything?
Yeah, good question. So the interesting thing about when you have really big dreams is you probably want to accomplish something that nobody else has accomplished before. Okay. So there's a lot of complicated aspects to that, one of which is if you want to accomplish something that nobody else has accomplished before, then you don't necessarily have a complete roadmap or a complete play-by-play telling you, hey, with these circumstances and your exact lifestyle.
That would be helpful, wouldn't it?
Yeah, absolutely.
Like, here's your playbook on how to be successful, right?
Right. And on the other hand, even if you do have a mentor who has accomplished exactly what you are setting out to do, even they haven't done it with your specific circumstances, with your specific skill set, and obviously our lives are very different, so that obviously plays a part. So I think that there's only so much that can be accomplished by learning, but that was definitely one thing that I was focused on perfecting, which I definitely feel like I got significantly better at from the age of 17 to 21 when I finally made the jump to start my company, was my character, was my soft skills, my communication, and all the important character traits that you need to be a successful business owner.
Yeah. Man, I love how you just kind of summed it up. I mean, I think what you were saying was, like, don't let the start stop you. Like, that's just such a concept for us that sometimes maybe comparison sneaks in, or me as a perfectionist, I know that I like to, the idea of not getting something perfect is actually fearful. You know, it's like it stops me from producing something just because I know comparison is there and fear is there. Was that something that you had a challenge or that you had to overcome? Was comparison or fear, or maybe it was something else that kind of got in your mind to prevent your production or your productivity? Was there anything like that?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that comparison and fear are two things that we're going to face every day for the rest of our lives. So
how do you overcome that? I mean, your business is 3 years now, right? Because you're 24. And has fear changed over the years, or has comparison changed over the years, or has it always been this one thing?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think that I still experience fear every single day, right? But I've gotten so used to acting despite the fear that I have. And as you continue to accomplish different things that are just on inevitable parts of your path to success, then your fears change. Where my first fear was starting my business and failing. And now now that I actually have a business that's up and running, now my fear changes to, not hitting our goal for quarter two.
Man, I love what you just said. You said action cures fear. I love that. And even if like it does cure this fear, there's always going to be another one that's always coming around the corner. That's so fascinating. So looking back at 21 when you first started this, how has your habits changed from being 21 to 24 now?
It's a great question. Well, now my life is significantly different than when I was 21 years old, and I'm still very intentional about learning. I think that learning is something that you do, and you think that you're going to primarily do when you're going throughout school, and you think that it kind of ends once you graduate college. But the only difference is that after you graduate college, now you just are intentional about learning the things that you want to learn. So obviously academics were a huge part of my habits. I had good study habits. Maybe I didn't study as much as I needed to, but I studied enough to be at the point where I'm at right now. So that was a big part of my habits. But when I did the Southwestern internship, that's where I think I really understood the power of habits. And the reality of the matter is I've fully experienced at this point being intentional about my habits, how it's transformed my life over the course of the past few years. And I would say that I really understand that we become our habits.
Yeah, totally. What's an example of one that maybe if you were 21 now, like if you could speak to yourself back then, like start this habit because this one's going to give you a huge investment. What's one or two examples of that?
Absolutely. My favorite habit and the one that I would recommend actually is going to vary from person to person, but I would say whatever makes you most uncomfortable or whatever you're most afraid to do on a daily basis, whatever thing is the hardest for you, if you can do that every single day, then it's important for you to do this habit, whether it be working out or whether it be studying, eating well, whichever of those is the hardest for you, or maybe just walking up to random people, introducing yourself is what's hard for you. But not only will that serve dividends in terms of developing soft skills or using the reference point of working out or eating well, obviously you'll transform how you look and you'll transform your confidence through that. But I think the habit of just doing things that you don't want to do every single day, eventually you practice that, and then when you're facing something uncomfortable that you don't really want to do, whether it be making that call or starting that business or having that tough conversation that the change that you're seeking is on the other side of, I think when that becomes a normal part of your identity and your habits, it's something that you do every single day, I think that's the single most powerful thing. That's the single most powerful habit that you could have.
Man, that's great. It sounds, just having a conversation with you, it sounds like the way that you have judged your progress has been able to stretch that comfort zone instead of trying to use perfection to be the gauge that you use. I think that's just so inspiring for all of us, because when we try to focus on something that we can control instead of something that isn't controllable, like the amount of views that someone looks at us, or the amount of shares that we have, or whatever else, like if we can focus on something that we can control, it's going to help us produce better instead of getting distracted by a comparison or a fear or anything like that. That's awesome.
Absolutely.
Back into that, we're going to go back to the beginning stages too, because I think this is so helpful for our audience to understand. But when you were 21, what was like a goal that you had that maybe you hit or did not hit? But how have your goals changed now that you're 24?
Absolutely. So when I had initially set a goal when I was 17 years old to own my own business, I had no idea what that looked like, what my action steps would be throughout the course of college and who I would meet. But it's crazy how when you set your eyes on a vision and that's your one thing that you want to accomplish, it's crazy how the puzzle pieces just seem to come together throughout life if that's what you're focused on, right? It's like the analogy of the compass that we use in LEAD I really love, because that was my North Star. And so because that's what I wanted to accomplish, then every day I knew that in my head. And then my actions were to do things that supported that vision. So at that point, it was just to start that company. right? I had
Sure.
no idea. I had no idea what that would look like. I didn't even know what an LLC was, but I knew that I wanted to own my own company. And the reason for this was, so I own an online personal training business, and I'm super passionate about that because I was a really small kid when I was a freshman in high school,
Okay.
and I got bullied. I wasn't very athletic, so
Yeah.
I had played football since I was third grade, and I sat bench every single year.
Yeah.
And so my older brother actually introduced me to fitness, and I loved that because it was something controllable that I could do every single day that I could see direct benefit from.
Yeah.
So throughout doing that, from doing that throughout the course of high school, from my freshman year all the way to my senior year, then I was twice the size. I looked great, I felt great, and even just proving to myself every single day that I could work hard towards something.
Yeah.
Then I started on my football team, and it really transformed my life, and it transformed my confidence. And
Yeah.
I was a completely different person when I graduated high school than when I entered high school. So that's I guess the why behind my business, and I had set a goal to own my own company and help as many
Yeah.
people accomplish that transformation as I possibly could.
So that's awesome. Thanks for sharing. And now that you're 24, what's like, I guess your goal changed from where in 21 it was just more about how can I really capitalize my experience, and then now that you're 24, it's I want people to have that same experience. Is that right?
Mm-hmm.
That's cool. That's
Yeah,
awesome.
absolutely.
So going back to like, maybe there's some things within your business, I guess you could title this like embracing the chaos. Like what's something that like maybe starting off at first, or maybe something you're going through right now trying to expand your business? Is there something that is a challenging aspect about your business? What's the challenge that you have now compared to you didn't have this challenge when you first started?
Yeah, absolutely. That's a great question. So now that when I had initially set out to own this company, I had no idea whether our business was going to have multiple coaches that coached a ton of people, or whether I
Yeah.
was going to be the one doing the coaching.
Mm-hmm.
So at this point, I've been running my business full time for a little bit over a year. So about 6 months after I graduated college. And it's been really interesting to see how our business has transformed. So I finally got to be a really good coach, and I was pretty successful up to this point. I was making a full-time income coaching people,
Yeah.
and there's a sales component of it, there's a marketing component of it, and there's also the being a good coach because I was the fulfillment of the product.
Yeah.
And so then I had other people walk up to me and ask me how I became an online coach.
Yeah.
And then so naturally I started wanting to solve the problem of helping people in that situation. So basically where my 17-year-old self was, wanting to own this business, wanting to be an online personal trainer, but having
Yeah.
no idea how. Now I'm very passionate about providing the means for people in that scenario to
Yeah.
run their own successful
Dude,
businesses through us.
that's awesome. That's so cool. How you overcame the challenges that you had at 17, whether that was personally or just you overcame personal challenges before you could help other people overcome their challenges too. And you started your company at 21, realizing that these are personal issues that you overcame. You're helping your clients overcome their issues, whether that's weight loss or gaining or muscle development. And then now you have people wanting to learn what you did. I mean, that's just so inspiring, I think, for all of us, is like, what challenges are we facing now that not only if we solve it for ourselves, that one day we'll be able to give that to somebody else. That's awesome.
Absolutely. The skill set of coaching people and selling and marketing is a very different skill set than it takes to lead people and teach them. And so that's something that I'm actively learning is now I'm not focused on becoming a good coach, but rather how do I lead people? And that's taught me a lot of different things about myself and a lot of areas of growth it's introduced.
Where was something that you learned that you realized, maybe there was a moment that you realized that there was a need for development in leadership?
Absolutely. So at the age of 17, 18, I did not really understand the concept of personal development as most of us probably have barely been introduced to, right? But I think as you go throughout college, you really get to see people that have good study habits, people that have good workout habits, when college is probably the first time that you have complete freedom over what your life looks like. You know, you're probably, not everybody lives on their own throughout college, but a lot of people do.
Yeah.
And so now you basically make your own schedule. You have time in between classes. And so I think that it was introduced to me very luckily at the age of 19, the importance of personal development and what I should fill those gaps in between my classes and what I should fill my schedule with in order to become the person that I want to. And I think that that was definitely an integral part of becoming the person that I am now. And there's some aspect of you could read all the personal development books in the world, and you could watch all of the personal development courses, but there's some aspect to doing. And until you put these concepts into action, you just really won't fully understand what it means because you've never experienced it.
Yeah.
So I think setting the goal to get to a place where you can teach personal development in some capacity, you can only teach something by doing, and that requires you to put those into action.
I love what you just said. That's fantastic. Like you were talking about, you can read a bunch of content, and it's good, and it's entertaining, right? But there's got to be a time in your life where you're actually going to do the do. And so it's, I think, if I could like sum up what you just said, it's like, don't read about development, be the development.
Right.
That's awesome. Yeah, just to sum up everything, what would you tell someone that is afraid of failure? Maybe they're in high school, maybe they're just graduated college, they have the degree, but they haven't started that LLC yet. What would you tell that person about failure?
Absolutely. Well, I think it's super important to realize why we're afraid of failing, because there's a million different reasons, and that's different for every single person. Are you afraid of failing because your parents have a different vision for your life than you do? That's an important thing to consider.
Yeah.
And all of these have different solutions, right? If the reason that you're afraid of failing is because you are afraid of what your friends are going to think of you, then that has its own different approach as well. So I think spending some time with, hey, if this is my dream and this is really what I want to accomplish, but I'm not setting out to do that for some reason, I'm afraid of failing, then I think it's important to consider why. Because when you consider why and you decide, then you can decide what's in your way. So if what's in your way is your friends looking at you as a failure, for example, then that's something that you can address, and then you can compare accomplishing your dreams to having your friends, maybe judge you for failing. And when I see those two things in front of me, it's accomplish my dreams, risk the failure, and the only downside is having the thing that I'm most afraid of is having my friends judge me if I do fail. Then it's easy for me to chase my dreams because I can understand what the alternative is or the downfall.
Man, that's awesome. Thanks for saying that. I think one quote that really just sums up, and it's on the topic of failure, but those only willing of going too far can possibly find out how far one can go. And you saying you did that. I mean, you overcame obstacles when you're in high school, when you're in college, and you did all of that because you knew that I just want to see how far I can take this. And now you have people asking you, how did you do this? So that's awesome.
Absolutely. I appreciate that.
Well, hey, thanks for joining us on learning and understanding this whole concept of progress over perfectionism.